I put out a video a few days ago on YouTube where I said, and I stand behind my claim, that tone is not really in your hands. And what I meant by that, I explained it in that video, and this might be an integration of that. I mean, is tone is really into your brain and musical experience more than it's in your actual hands. It's just a cute way of saying that tone is not in the gear. I believe it's also in the gear as well as in the hands, but most of all, it's in your musical experience. And that's what I will be expanding on today, because truly your musical experience drives you to make micro and macro decisions at every time of your playing to make you sound like you sound. So I sound like myself, good or bad that it is, because I have a certain musical experience, and through my growth and my studying, I've been through a lot of listening and understanding, consciously and not consciously, to the players I was absorbing. So I listened a lot to Steve Vai, I listened a lot to David Gilmour on the electric guitar I'm now talking about, and many of those, the guitar players from Eagles, Joe Walsh, Felder, they were great guitar players. Hey, Peter and Victor and Yuri, hi Yuri. Thank you, I'm trying. So basically, what I was doing while I was studying all these players is I was capturing their phrases, but also I was developing my idea, I say again, conscious and unconscious, of what a good sound is. And my brain was starting slowly to put up all the data that it needed to build that sound. And that sound comes from a lot of little nuances. And that's what I want to talk about today. How you translate what you learn by just understanding what you like and what tone you have in mind and translating it into the guitar. So that's the purpose of today's video. Since we all agree, I assume, that it's not your physical hands. While they might play a role, I mean, I have very small hands, Steve Vai has huge hands, maybe they're really strong, maybe it's easier for him to do certain things, and that's just part of the game. Just like some people have amazing guitars, some people have shitty guitars, but you know, you make it work. That's the point. You have an idea of where you want to go, and you make it work. Whatever you have in your hands, and beneath your feet, by the way, pedals, amps, guitars, etc. So what I will go through is first with the electric guitar and what you can do to achieve your sound. And then I will take a look a little bit at the acoustic guitar as well, if we have time. So I hope you're still with me. If you have questions about what I just said, fire them up, and I will just keep on talking about this because it's something that I'm really passionate about. I love tone, and I believe that tone is actually what differentiates players, good players, from average players. I mean, that's what strikes me. You can be very technical, you can be very simple, I don't care, as long as you have an amazing tone and amazing phrasing, which, by the way, for me are very interlinked between themselves. Because sound is made of notes, and it's made of touch and, generally speaking, sound. Okay, so the first thing you want to consider when building your sound is when you listen to the players that you like, you have to grow the ability of understanding why they are so great in this department, in the department of tone. I mean, if you like them, their tone must be good. But it's not easy to understand why that tone is so good. So you might hear, I don't know, Andy Timmons or John Mayer, and say, wow, I just love that sound. How does he get that sound? What pedals does he use? What guitar is that? What amps is he using? What phrase, what pick, what string gauge? That matters, but only to a certain extent. The point is what he wants to achieve. So John Mayer, just to take one player that I really like, has a way of touching the guitar, tweaking the knobs, touching the pedals and setting them up to achieve the sound that he has in his mind. And that's the ability that you have to grow if you want to improve your sound. Understanding what you like and what you don't like in those players and how you can make your sound better. So let's say the first thing you want to do is the way you touch the guitar. Okay, so you listen to John Mayer and you hear the way he touches the guitar. Is he playing it softly? Is it playing it hard? Is it playing it differently depending on the moment? Are all the notes in one phrase very loud? Are some notes softer? Stuff like that. So the first thing we want to look at is train our ability to learn from those great players how they touch the guitar and understand why we like it. So let's say I did this example in the video I was talking about earlier, which is on YouTube. And but I will make something like that again. I can play a very simple phrase, just banging on the guitar, very loud, and all the notes are playing without any kind of embellishment. Or I can try to find the sound. I have a good pedal. It's an overdrive pedal. I have a good guitar with nice pickups. Still, that phrase didn't sound right. But if I tweak the guitar a little bit, I maybe make it a little darker with my tone knob. Let me show it to you. I just played it full scale, so it was all blown out. I can turn the tone knob a little bit. I can roll it back and do the same with the volume, and right away the same phrase sounds different. I'm not saying that it's good, but it sounds different. So actually this was supposed to be the second step of our discussion, but we did it. It's fine. The first thing you want to see is how you touch it. So even with my controls to the full, I can modulate my picking from very, very softly to very loud, so that I can obtain something more dynamic, something that is not flat and annoying. This is annoying. This is intense. Because when I pick hard, you feel that emotion and that strikes you because it's surrounded by things that are soft. That's why you like it when I pick hard, because I am picking soft. So that's the first thing, the way you touch the guitar. And you have so many elements that you can use in your fingers, in your pick, in the way you incline your pick towards the strings. There's so many things you can do to change it. So let's say I can play with a pick flat. You can hear it's a very stiff tone, which sometimes is good. But if I tilt the pick a little bit, I hear a lot of scrubbing on the string. I hear this, which adds to the tone. So my point is that all these things, you have to learn how to see them. Because once you know them, you tend to forget them. You might know a lot of things in your life that you end up forgetting. But when you use them and you keep on seeing those things in the players that you like, you will remember them. because you will start incorporating those things consciously in your playing. So my friend Luling is saying that musical experiences in various environments will influence tone too. True. It's not just related to guitar. It's related to all the instruments. When I hear a drummer playing, I'm a very big fan of drums. I always played the drums a little bit. I'm not very good on them, but I like to play the drums. So what I noticed is even on drums that you are supposed to smash on, actually, all the same rules apply. If you touch your snare right in the center very hard, it has a sound. This is obvious, but not all the drummers think about it. The good ones do. So when they touch the snare drum at the center very soft, they obtain a very fat sound, which is actually, once you turn up the volume, fatter, much fatter than when they hit it very hard, which is counterintuitive, but with the guitar it's the same. I touched it very lightly, but the sound was big because I touched it very lightly. If I was touching it hard, I would obtain a very nasty sound. So that's my whole point about touch. And there's a few more things that you might want to consider. By the way, muting is a very important thing, but we will probably discuss that on a separate video and live stream probably, because muting is very tricky. But that's really part of the sound. So my friend Luca is asking if there's some exercises that you can use and practice to develop these things. Actually, I don't think there's many exercises because this is simple things. So what you want to do is just practice them. Just grab your guitar with your favorite sound, play just 2 notes. Don't play 1,000 notes, just play 2. You like these 2 notes? What you don't like? What can you improve to sound more like the players that you love? First thing, you can play softly. Then you can try modulating and see if you can change that vibe by playing harder or softer. It's just 2 notes, but you can see how many things you can change there. And by the way, this is sometimes the reason why some people play too many notes, because they're focusing just on that. Well, there is so much to be done in the sound department. Another thing you might want to do before we get into embellishments, what you want to do is use your left hand in conjunction with your right hand to modulate your touch. So it's not really a vibrato. This is something that David Gilmour does amazingly. It's never stiff. It's never playing like this. It's always moving his hands. And that's great because it's really imparting some vibing, some interest in your sound, in your phrases, just because you're moving your hands. And sometimes just raising a little bit of your fingers in the left hand can help coloring the sound. Instead of just going, try just raising the fingers. So you can separate the notes a little bit. All these are just nuances, but when you put them all together, you obtain a very great, nice sound. So another thing that is really important, we said about the right hand technique with the pick. Actually, it applies with your fingers too. It's even more complex. Fingers are even more colored and variated, if I can use this word, I don't know. Sometimes my English fails me. Than the pick. They have different approaches to make you sound colored. And left, right hand, one other thing you want to add is your vibrato. Vibrato is so important, and it differentiates good players from bad players again, because if you play a note like this, sounds like crap. If you can do this, and modulate it to your will, you can do a very soft vibrato, and you can do a very hard vibrato. They all have their place. Once you can use everything at your will, you're set. And to control vibrato, something you can do is you can try to do it with a metronome. So you just put a metronome on and try to go in time. This is very slow, but it gives you control. You do it with all 4 fingers, with all the strings. And so on. 4 fingers, all the strings, try different places on the neck. That's something very important to develop. What we're talking about is a lot of stuff, and this is the stuff you develop during your whole life. So it's not something that you just start working today and you do it for a week and you obtain your results. That's exactly my point. You have to learn the ability to understand what sucks in your playing. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me. I'm always thinking about, I don't like that. That note was too loud, or maybe it was too stiff, stuff like that. I keep on doing it. So let me get a couple of questions. I saw Lulin saying something interesting. Cello tones influenced a lot of my music. Yeah, true. Cello, drums, flute, saxophones, whatever helps you to build that kind of awareness of what is a great sound will help you. So that's the idea. Another thing that I want to point out is that silence is sometimes as important as notes. But this is more related usually to phrasing, like you phrase and you leave space between the notes. So that's phrasing, but that's not what I want to talk about. It's very important that you like what happens when a guitar stops sounding. I like that. I like the tail of the reverb. And I spend a lot of time usually tweaking. Since I am also a sound engineer, I mix and produce records for a living. I tweak the sound very carefully depending on the song. There's not the perfect reverb, there's not the perfect delay, there's not the perfect combination of the two. What's good is what's good for the song for that specific moment. For example, I don't like to play with a delay right now that we're talking, but I love delays usually in a song, especially if I put them in time. The tail is important because when I stop, the tail is what blends your sound to the rest of the music. Now we don't have any music, but I will play something for you to try to demonstrate what I'm saying. So silence is also important. What happens to your sound when it stops? That means reverbs and delays. So we're talking about your hands, right and left. We're talking about your vibrato. We're talking about the pick and the fingers, and we talked about silence. Now we should talk about gear, because gear, just as well as your hands, is an extension of what you want to achieve sound-wise. So let me see if I lost any of you. No, you're still here. Good. Because I don't have the numbers on the chat. And so I was saying, gear. You will choose the pedals that you like. You will choose the amp that you like, the guitar that you like, and that all relates to having the same instruments as your favorite player sometimes. I'm a fan of Gilmour, so I like the Strat. I've been playing Stratocaster songs forever, so I'm a Stratocaster guy. I love the Strat. I love certain pedals that deliver the type of sound I have in my head. So just as for the ends, for the pedals is the same. I will pick up this Overdrive any day because I like the way that it changes from playing softly to play it loud. So when I hit the guitar harder, what I obtain is a crunchier but still present and defined sound. Let me take out the delay. I will show you the pedal later, but what I wanted to say is that the gear has the same function of your hands. It has to replicate what is in your head. So, first thing that I usually do to obtain my sound, let's say I just go and plug in my guitar to somebody's amp. It happened with Steve Vai once. Victor was there, I think. And I was about jamming with Steve Vai. I went on stage, I just plugged in my Strat to a rig, a guitar amp that I've never seen. I didn't know how much gain I had, if the gain was too little, too much, and if the tone was too bright, too obnoxious or nice. It was actually a pretty nice sound, but it was very cranked. It was like a very heavy metal style distortion amp. So it was very saturated and very bright. So the first thing that I did is I rolled off everything on my guitar. So let's say the tone was something like this. Very nasty, especially now that we're just talking. You hear something like that is just too much. The first thing that I do, I roll out my volume knob and see what happens if I... So what I got is a much lighter, distorted sound. The other thing, I rolled off a little bit of the tone. And I got this more compact sound. But I would have never done it if that wasn't something that I was looking for, aiming at. So that's the point of all this discussion. You have to have a sound in your mind before you even decide to buy a guitar or another. So I'm using the center pickup and I am 8 on the volume and 8 on the tone. And sometimes I like to touch the volume and the tone, even in the mid of a note. Can you see how many colors you have just by touching the knobs and fiddling with the switcher? That's great. But that's always something that you want to do consciously. You have to look for it. And I actually speaking about pedals, I prepared a picture of my pedal so I can show it to you. And let me see. But before I do that, maybe I should play a song. Since you don't have many questions coming, you're probably processing what I'm saying and deciding if it's good for you. I might be playing something that will try to demonstrate what I'm talking about. And at the same time, if you want to think about some questions about it and you want to leave them in the chat, go ahead and we will discuss them later. After this, we will probably talk a little bit about the pedals and the amp and why I chose them. Always because I have a vision of my sound. That might be good for you, that might be crap. It's my sound, it's what I like. So it depends on you, it depends on what you're aiming at. So, I will try to play, this is a funk jam that is not very mellow and at the same time not very busy. So I can do a lot of tricks and tweak the guitar to obtain good sounds. Let me just change the screen for a second. Alright, so you get the point. I try to restrain myself, sorry about that, to restrain myself from doing too much playing and just focusing on the nuances of the tone. So, I forgot to say about what you can do musically to improve your tone, because it's actually lateral to what we're talking about, to what we're speaking about. But to improve the sound of your instrument, sometimes you want to hit the notes with some devices, which are bendings, which are slides, and some sort of groups like bendings with vibrato possibly, bendings with slides, groups, just slides, backwards slides, and all these things need to be good sounding, because the point is you not only have to do them, you also have to make them sound good. That's why I talk about those. Those are more musical devices and technical devices on the instrument more than they are tonal devices. The point is that if you have a good sound, but when you do a bending you're out of tune, out of pitch, that will crap your sound out, unfortunately. So to be perfectly in tune is really important. And to do all these things, you have to develop many skills, including knowing the fretboard. Because if you want to slide a lot, it means you have to be able to switch between positions. So it's a very complex skill, but you develop it because you know where you want to go. If you don't know where you want to go, it's really hard that you give any importance to do all those techniques justice. Okay, so now I would like to show you the pedals that I'm using. Guys, do you have any questions? I'm ready to take some questions before we talk about the pedals, and we switch to the acoustic guitar briefly. So Lulin is asking if I use a whammy bar a lot and if that's why I don't use a Les Paul. Actually, you, my friend, know that I'm a big fan of B&G guitars, and those are not equipped with any vibrato bar. And I do use it a lot, but I have to kind of force myself into it because I keep on forgetting about the device, because I have to move my hands from the playing area. So the problem with the whammy bar, the vibrato in general, it's a great device, but when you play you have to remember to grab it, and you have to remember to let it go. Because some things are really uncomfortable with the vibrato, and some things are really uncomfortable if you're just holding the bar in your hands. I forgot to change the camera, sorry. So the last part of the electric guitar discussion that I would like to tell you is the gear. So basically the gear that I'm using right now is just an amp emulator, which maybe some of you have seen, which is the Strymon Iridium, which is a great thing. It sounds very close to an amplifier. It's not exactly the same, but it does sound very good. And on the floor, I have a bunch of things, and I will show them to you. So this is the pedal board that I am using right now. And this is actually a very, it's not a pedal board that I use most of the time. It's quite different. I made it for the live streams. This is my small setup, and it's 3 overdrives and 1 compressor. Everything else is just technical stuff. The big one is a TC Nova that I use just for the delay in this live stream, so nothing else gets used out of it. I just put the delay on, and this is the delay of the TC Nova. But everything else, all the gain that you hear is done with the pedals. And my main overdrive is the green one, the secret one, which is an Italian pedal. The company is called Secret Effects. And the reason why I chose it, when first of all they're friends, but I also chose that pedal because it has a certain type of sound that really translates what I have in my head. So when I play very softly, let me take it out for a second. When I play very softly, I get this type of clean sound, but it's not as clean if I just turn the pedal off. This is the clean sound of the guitar. If I turn the pedal on and roll the volume a little bit as usual, as you can see I am rolling the volume, what I get is this type of clean sound that is not completely clean, but is also round. It doesn't have too many edges. You're hearing a little bit of the strings from this microphone over here that I used to talk to you. But as you can see, the sound is rounder, it's less bright, it has more low mids. And that's something that I really like about this pedal, that it rounds the sound. But not as a tube screamer. The tube screamer tends to make it very nasal. This is not nasal, this is round. So if I turn it off, this is a very bland, clean sound. With the pedal on and the volume pot rolled off a little bit, this is a very pleasing, to me at least, clean sound. And if I hit the guitar, it has this type of mid-range push that I really love. But I chose the pedal, going back to the beginning of this hangout, I chose this pedal because I want those things to happen. The roundness, the mid-range push when I push harder, all those things, I envision them in my head first. I want them because all the players that I loved have them. And I kind of made them conscious during the years. And if I just put the volume all the way, like this, well, you cannot see it, but it's all the way. It's not very distorted, but at the same time, if I pick hard, I obtain this type of light crunch gain. But I'm up to 10 with the volume knob. I still can obtain a clean sound. I usually put it down to 9 maybe. And I tweak it until I find what I have in my head. And if I dig in, I don't get more volume, I just get a little bit more distortion. Sometimes to get this even better, what I do, in the songs that I use this pedal by itself, I usually use a compressor after it, which is made by the same company as the gray one. The company's Secret Effects is the same Italian builders. They're friends. They actually live pretty close by. But I think those two pedals are just amazing together. So this is just the overdrive. And it's very dynamic. So if I play soft, the sound is low and not distorted. If I hit hard, I get more distortion and a little bit more volume. If I use the compressor, you can hear I clicked it. What I get is that let me take this out, all the low level signals, so when I play soft, that level gets raised up. So if I play very softly, this is louder than if I turn the compressor off. Compressor on. You can hear that it's louder. And if I pick hard, I get the same thing as before. I get the distortion, a little bit of distortion, but also the sound gets compressed a little bit. So my loudest peak is the same as before. You can tell it's mostly the same. I didn't tweak the pedal perfectly, but this is without a compressor. This is with the compressor. The volume is the same. What really changes, it's a little bit more compressed. What changes is when you play softly. This was with the compressor, and it's very loud. It's louder than it would be if the compressor was off. And I use this in pop environments and even rock, when I just want to arpeggiate something and then just dig in, but I want the level to be consistent. So that was for my clean and mild distorted sound. If I'm just improvising with it, I prefer to remove the compressor because I like the dynamics. So if I was to do a blues solo, I will take the compressor off, as I just did, just to retain the dynamics. So when I play softly, I want it to be soft in volume. Okay, so the next pedal is the one that I use for the distorted things. I actually have two here. One is the blues driver and one is the OCD. Why do I have two? I have two because I want to have two different kind of effects. That's kind of obvious. But those things are a necessity before being something I have on my pedal board. So I have something in my mind, I want to achieve that sound, I get the pedals that give me that sound. It's the reverse to what sometimes people do. They just listen to a pedal, they say, wow, this sounds great. Yes, but great for what? Do you need it for what? And the Boss pedal, I will get to your questions, guys. I'm reading those, but I want to finish the thing that I'm saying. The Boss has a very unique sound. I use it pretty cranked up, so there's a lot of gain, because I like it when I do Hendrixy stuff. Because it breaks up a lot. Usually with an amp is a bit more open. So with the Iridium, with the amp simulation, is a bit more muffled. And if I play it soft, I don't get too much reduction in gain. And that's how it sounds. If I turned on the other one, the white one, the OCD, the sound is completely different. It's way more compact and is way more dynamic. I like the sound more, but it doesn't do this steady type of sound. So what I try to do with this pedal is the OCD. You can hear how compact it is, and it's great for a certain number of things. But this other one, which is the Boss, it's the blues driver. You can see that if I play lightly, it's always distorted, and that's what I like. It's a bit too dark for my taste, but it depends on the Iridium. So I consider this my rock Marshall type pedal. I'm sure there's a ton of those types of pedals way better than this, but it happens to be the one that I have on the pedal board. I have more. I have a Providence Red Rock that sounds similar, and that it's more a more quality pedal, let's say. Boss is not really quality stuff for some reason. I mean, the sound is great. I probably shouldn't say this because I like Boss. So what's quality? Quality is what you like. Blues Driver, you can get it, I don't know, for maybe $100 or something like that. The Providence is $200, so you just pay twice. but that doesn't mean necessarily that it's better. So when I play, let's say, Clapton stuff, sometimes I like to use the blues driver. Blues driver. And the OCD. It's really more compact. And for that reason, in some circumstances, I don't like them. So Luca is asking something that I was just getting to, so I'll take the question if I use Overdrives Together. Yes, I do. And that's when it gets complex. Because here's the secret one, the first overdrive. Guitar volume is at 10. I switch to the OCD. Not much more gain, a little bit more gain, still dynamic, and this is the blues driver by itself. You can hear how the I end cracks up when I hit hard. It's like it's distorting the I end more. If I want more gain, I decide how to combine them, depending on what type of gain I need. If I am doing something like the funk little gem that I was playing before, I might combine the secret one, let me show it to you, the secret one, the green pedal, and the OCD, the full tone, because them together, they sound like this. So I can retain the dynamics, and dynamics are great. So let's say my volume is at 6, 8, full. So it's not really very, very distorted. But if I want something more aggressive, and I know it from the start, what I will do is probably combining the boss with the OCD, and this is the result. And I will start with the volume at 6 as before. As you can see, the gain is a little bit more, and even if I pick softly, I still get some distortion. But if I go to 10, the sound is not only more distorted, it's also more compressed, which makes it easier to play. So if I'm planning to do something more intense musically, I might go for these combinations. And sometimes I even add the secret one, so I have 3 overdrives all together, because I might need more gain, so I will go into the secret one, then into the OCD, then into the blues driver, and I will have 3 overdrives, because in that case, if I need more gas, if I have to push a little bit more, I can. I might start very low with the volume, and there's a lot of background noise. I'll show it to you, but there will be some noise. So I will go like this. And I am at 6. You can hear there's a lot of noise. But if I need it, I can go further. And here's where it gets important to be aware of what you're doing. That's the whole point. You get a very saturated amp, you have to control it. It's like riding a very wild horse. You have to control it. If you have very little gain, you have to be able to choose when it's appropriate to have very little gain. So I guess you got my point. I've been talking about this little hangout. The point is you have to know what you want. And to know what you want, you have to develop the ability to recognize it into the players that you love. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll back and see if I can answer some of the questions, and then we will talk a little bit about the acoustic. Just let me add that I usually use Fender amps clean, so there's not much of a contribution in gain staging from the amp, not at all. Maybe a little compression. So now I'm using the Iridium. And let me see if I can answer some of your questions. Then we will switch to the acoustic guitar. So the acoustic guitar is a whole different animal, and I will just talk about it briefly because I think there's a lot that we can discuss in a separate lesson. Okay, I forgot to turn off the notifications, the automatic notifications. Ciao Gabriele, non ti avevo visto, didn't see you. Yeah, it's a little Hendrixy. Actually, it's creamier than Hendrix. Hendrix used fuzz pedals, and fuzz pedals are usually a little harsher, but they clean up very nicely when you roll off your tone. Ciao Matteo, ben, good to see you. The secret range is much more expensive. I would say the secret that I have over here is a cheaper version. They have two versions. This one is a cheaper one, and it goes for around $250. I think they're on sale now for some reason. But they have one with the precious military box, and the one with the box is way more expensive. So it's a very boutique pedal. And let me see what's after that. Ok. Davide, qualcosa di Hendrix. In realtà, we're talking, sorry for speaking in English, but we are mixed language speaking people, so I prefer to go for English so everybody understands. We're talking about guitar tone, so not really into doing any specific types of music. So as you can see, probably the video that I did for Little Wing, that it's on YouTube, I probably used the secret one, Overdrive, which is not the perfect pedal to do that song, but I wasn't trying to demonstrate the sound, I was trying to demonstrate the notes. Here we're talking more about sound. So Lorenzo say, I see you using a basement, super reverb, and twin reverb. Okay, so there are actually three very different amps. I don't have a basement. I actually have a Blues DeVille and a Blues Deluxe. They do have they make a contribution to the sound. The Blues Deluxe is sparkly, just as the Super Reverb that I used to have. They're very hi-fi sounding amps, especially because they have smaller speakers. They have 10-inch speakers, so they're brighter. And I like that in some occasions. I always use my Blues DeVille in the studio, which is similar to a basement, but not as bright. I like it because it retains a little bit of the mid-range. Twin is my favorite amp for live stuff. If I find a twin on a stage, I'm always happy. And the Super Reverb, I sold it, not because I didn't like the sound, but it was a little bit too hi-fi for me. So as we were talking before, you go for what you really have in your head. It's a great amp, it sounds amazing if I just play by myself. Then I brought it to a few gigs on very big stages, and I found out that it wasn't very loud. I think it's just 40 watts. Not sure about that, but it cranked. It didn't sustain as much volume as I needed. And that's one of the reasons why I sold it. And the other one is that it didn't cut through the band. The band that I was playing with was really not really the appropriate amp to use. So that's why I decided to sell it. Yeah, it's 45 watts. Okay. And it's actually an amazing amp. If I could keep all the amps, I will probably have kept my Marshall. I had a JCM 800 from the 80s that I bought when I was a kid. And but you cannot just keep everything, because everything just does one job maybe better than another amp and vice versa. So that's a great amp. Davide, what do you mean thanks a lot? I hope you're not being sarcastic. And by the way, even if we don't talk about anything specific on Hendrix, the thing that Hendrix does, I really like it a lot. But I do it in my own way, and that's part of the things that we are discussing today. Hendrix didn't use a compressor, for example. He used very loud Marshall amps. The Secret Effects pedal, the two of them, the overdrive and the compressor. And even if I'm not using the same things that Hendrix used to use, I'm borrowing from his musical style, but implanting me in my vision of the sound. This is something that I wanted to end up with, because the idea that there is the perfect sound is just bullshit. Sorry, shouldn't have said it. There's no perfect sound. That's your personality. That's what you have inside yourself and what you develop during the years. Your sound development doesn't end when you're 40, I'm 47. It doesn't end. You just keep on tweaking and searching. And you're tweaking and searching inside to replicate what you find inside yourself of tastes, nuances. You replicate it on the outside, on the guitar, on the pedals you choose, on the amps you choose, on the way you touch the guitar, but the search is inside yourself. I see my great buddy Shane Hennessy. He's an amazing acoustic guitar player. Go check him out, Shane Hennessy from Ireland. Amazing guitar player. I'm glad you're interested, man. Just rewatch the video. We're almost wrapping it up. Good to see you, by the way. Leonin uses a Roland Cube GX80. Whatever works for you, man. The point is, when you get unsatisfied, you just look for something new. And I just keep on doing this for all my life. I've been doing it for all my life. The thing that I would say the thing that I settle with is the overdrive, the green overdrive I showed you, the secret one. Because I cannot say that I find anything unsatisfying about it. And that's why I'm not looking for another overdrive. I'm still looking, though, for the perfect combination of the heavy distorted sound. So when I look for a very singing lead sound tone, I am still not happy today. So as you can see, I try to mix and blend different combinations of pedals. I think I have 5 or 6 overdrives that I keep on putting on and off my pedal board. And I still don't find what I like. Usually amps are too thin for my taste. As you can see, I like very big but defined bottom end when I'm soloing. These low notes are very fat, but not in the very low bottom end. They're fat in the mid-range. And as I said, that is something that I look for. It's not something that I think it's the perfect sound. It's just something that works for me. It makes it hard to play fast, probably, because the sound is very defined. But at the same time, who cares? I mean, I don't have to play as fast as when I was a kid. I did that. It was fun, but it's now we move on to different things. All right. Gabriele, yes, I try to have versatility because I play with many different bands and situations. And at the same time, it's even this is because I didn't find the perfect things that I have in my head. I'm still looking because I have a vision and I want to achieve it, and I still think I'm 90% there, maybe 85, 90% for most of the things. Okay, guys, this has been fun. I will leave you by playing something else, and I see there's no more questions. Glad that Shane Hennessy dropped by. Is just a good friend of mine and an amazing acoustic guitar player. Also, Gabriele is an amazing guitar player, acoustic guitar. Just check him out as well, Gabriele Dusi. And Lorenzo says he bought a JCM 800, the combo version. I had the combo version and I had the head. Both that were great, and I sold them both. Yes, but it's a great sounding amp. I'm just more inclined toward Fender sounding amps, like Fender. I like Fenders. I'm not endorsed by Fender in any way. I tried, but I couldn't make it, so I just like the stuff they do. And we just have the passing. Sorry, I just heard a weird noise. Never mind. Let me play something for you. Thanks for staying with me. It's been fun. And we don't have time for the acoustic part. I think I will make a separate hangout. I'm trying to do this hangout every Wednesday at this time, at 7 Central Europe time. And I think I will be trying to keep it steady. For now, it's steady my Monday live. So every Monday, 9:30 p.m. Italian time, Central Europe time, I go live and play. And Wednesday, I try to talk a little bit about things that I am passionate about and take your question. It's a hangout. You can ask me whatever you want, and we can discuss whatever you want. So, let me play another song for you. Just on the topic that we were discussing today, which was guitar tone. We just talked about the electric guitar tone. So, I'm just going to play an electric guitar solo piece. Maybe just a solo over The Thrill Is Gone, which everybody knows and is a nice progression to solo over. And okay, then we will say goodbye. that was fun. That was fun. Thanks for staying with me. I hope you enjoyed this little talk about guitar sound. It's an integration of the video that I did on YouTube where I said that the sound is not in your hands, it's actually in your head. And it was fun to talk to you. I hope to see you Monday for my Monday Live. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the week. I'll see you soon. Bye.